Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda
oh Nityananda,
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda
oh Nityananda,
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai,
jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai, Gauda Premanande.
Hari 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 Bo.
Welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Kala Prabhu who joined the party. We got 3 stalwarts here. Bhakta Adam, Bhakta Cassidy, and Kala Prabhu. You know it's going to be a good day when these 3 exalted souls come together to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Let me put this down a little, this thing. Alright. Today we're picking up on Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 34. 111:34. If we're lucky, we may finish the chapter. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam Nashtaprayashva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Okay. 111:34. Evam nirpanam chitti bhara janmanam akshauhini biparivrita tejasam vidhaya vairam swasano yathanalam mito vadeno parato narayudaha. The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, and so on. He himself was not a party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks a fire. Report. As stated above, the living beings are not factual enjoyers of things which are manifested as God's creation. The Lord is the genuine proprietor and enjoyer of everything manifested in his creation. Unfortunately, influenced by the deluding energy, the living being becomes a false enjoyer under the dictation of the modes of nature. Puffed up by such a false sense of becoming God, the deluded living being increases his material strength by so many activities and thus becomes the burden of the earth. So much so that the earth becomes completely uninhabitable by the sane. This state of affairs is called dharmasya glanihi, or misuse of the energy of the human being. When such misuse of human energy is prominent, the sane or living beings become perturbed by the awkward situation created by the vicious administrators, who are simply burdens of the earth. And the Lord appears by his internal potency just to save the saner section of humanity and to alleviate the burden due to the earthly administrators in different parts of the world. He does not favor either of the unwanted administrators, but by his potential power he creates hostility between such unwanted administrators, as the air creates fire in the forest by the friction of the bamboos. The fire in the forest takes place automatically by the force of the air, and similarly the hostility between different groups of politicians takes place by the unseen design of the Lord. The unwanted administrators, puffed up by false power and military strength, thus become engaged in fighting amongst themselves over ideological conflicts, and so exhaust themselves of all powers. The history of the world reflects this factual will of the Lord, and it will continue to be enacted until the living beings are attached to the service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is very vividly described. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. It is said, "The deluding energy is my potency, and thus it is not possible for the dependent living beings to supersede the strength of the material modes. But those who take shelter in me, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, can cross over the gigantic ocean of material energy." This means that no one can establish peace and prosperity in the world by fruitive activities or by speculative philosophy or ideology. The only way is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and thus become free from the illusion of the deluding energy. Unfortunately, persons who are engaged in destructive work are unable to surrender to the personality of Godhead. They are all fools of the first order. They are the lowest of the human species of life. They are robbed of their knowledge, although apparently they seem to be academically educated. They are all of the demoniac mentality, always challenging the supreme power of the Lord. Those who are very materialistic, always hankering after material power and strength, are undoubtedly fools of the first order because they have no information of the living energy. And being ignorant of that supreme spiritual science, they are absorbed in material science, which ends with the end of the material body. They are the lowest of human beings because the human life is especially meant for reestablishing the lost relation with the Lord. And they miss this opportunity by being engaged in material activities. They are robbed of their knowledge because even after prolonged speculation, they cannot reach to the stage of knowing the personality of Godhead, the summum bonum of everything. And all of them are men of demoniac principle, and they suffer the consequences, as did such materialistic heroes as Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and others. Excuse me. Okay, text 35. So Aisha Naralokesmin Navatirna Swamayaya Remestri Ratna Kutasto Bhagavan Prakrito Yata. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs. Purport. The Lord married and lived like a householder. This is certainly like a mundane affair, but when we learn that he married 16,108 wives and lived with them separately in each and every palace, certainly it is not mundane. Therefore, the Lord, living as a householder amongst his competent wives, is never mundane, and his behavior with them is never to be understood as mundane sex relation. The women who become the wives of the Lord are certainly not ordinary women, because to get the Lord as one's husband is the result of many, many millions of births, tapasya, austerity. When the Lord appears on different lokas or planets, or on this planet of human beings, he displays his transcendental pastimes just to attract the conditioned souls, to become his eternal servitors, friends, parents, and lovers, respectively, in the transcendental world. where the Lord eternally reciprocates such exchanges of service. Service is pervertedly represented in the material world and broken untimely, resulting in sad experience. The illusioned living being, conditioned by material nature, cannot understand out of ignorance that all our relations here in the mundane world are temporary and full of inebrities. Such relations cannot help us be happy perpetually, but if the same relation is established with the Lord, then we are transferred to the transcendental world after leaving this material body and become eternally related with Him in the relation we desire. The women amongst whom He lived as their husband are not, therefore, women of this mundane world, but are eternally related with Him as transcendental wives. a position which they attained by perfection of devotional service. That is their competency. The Lord is Param Brahma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Conditioned souls seek after perpetual happiness in all places, not only on this earth, but also on other planets throughout the universe. Because constitutionally a spiritual spark, as he is, can travel to any part of God's creation. Excuse me. But being conditioned by the material modes, he tries to travel in space by spacecraft and so fails to reach his destination. The law of gravitation is binding upon him like the shackles of a prisoner. By other processes he can reach anywhere, but even if he reaches the highest planet, he cannot attain that perpetual happiness for which he is searching life after life. When he comes to his senses, however, he seeks after Brahman happiness, knowing it for certain that unlimited happiness, which he is seeking, is never attainable in the material world. As such, the Supreme Being, Parabrahman, certainly does not seek his happiness anywhere in the material world, nor can his paraphernalia of happiness be found in the material world. He is not impersonal. Because he is the leader and Supreme Being amongst innumerable living beings, he cannot be impersonal. He is exactly like us, and he has all the propensities of an individual living being in fullness. He marries exactly like us, but his marriage is neither mundane nor limited by our experience in the conditioned state. His wives, therefore, appear like mundane women, but factually they are all transcendental liberated souls, perfect manifestations of internal energy. Udama Bhava Pushunamala Varaguhasa Vridavaloka Nahato Marano Piyasam Samuya Japa Majahat Paramadotamastha Yas Yendriyam Vamatitum Kuhakarna Sheku. Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Purport. The path of salvation, or the path going back to Godhead, always forbids the association of women, and the complete Sanatan Dharma, or Varnashram Dharma, scheme forbids or restricts association with women. How then can one be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is addicted to more than 16,000 wives? This question may be relevantly raised by inquisitive persons really anxious to know about the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. And to answer such questions, the sages at Naimisharanya have discussed the transcendental character of the Lord in this and in following verses. It is clear herein that the feminine attractive features which can conquer Cupid, or even the supermost tolerant Lord Shiva, could not conquer the senses of the Lord. Cupid's business is to invoke mundane lust. The whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's bow. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. A male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female is looking after a suitable male. That is the way of material stimulus. And as soon as a male is combined with a female, the material bondage of the living being is at once tightly interlocked by sex relation. And as a result of this, both the male's and female's attraction for sweet home, motherland, bodily offspring, society, and friendship, and accumulation of wealth becomes the illusory field of activities, and thus a false but indefatigable attraction for the temporary material existence, which is full of miseries, is manifest. Those who are therefore on the path of salvation for going back home, back to Godhead, are especially advised by all scriptural instruction to become free from such paraphernalia of material attraction. And that is possible only by the association of the devotees of the Lord, who are called the Mahatmas. Cupid throws his arrow upon the living beings to make them mad after the opposite sex, whether the party is actually beautiful or not. Cupid's provocations are going on even amongst beastly societies who are all ugly looking in the estimation of the civilized nations. Thus Cupid's influence is exerted even amongst the ugliest forms. And what to speak of the most perfect beauties? Lord Shiva, who is considered to be most tolerant, was also struck by Cupid's arrow because he also became mad after the Mohini incarnated himself to be defeated. Cupid, however, was himself captivated by the grave and exciting dealings of the goddesses of fortune. And he voluntarily gave up his bow and arrow in a spirit of... Such was the beauty and attraction of the queens of Lord Krishna, yet they could not disturb the transcendental senses of the Lord. This is because the Lord is all perfect Atmarama, or self-sufficient. He does not require anyone's extraneous help for his personal satisfaction. Therefore the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. Thus, being satisfied by their unalloyed service only, the Lord reciprocated the service just like a devout husband. Otherwise, he had no business becoming the husband of so many wives. He is the husband of everyone, but to one who accepts him as such, he reciprocates. This unalloyed affection for the Lord is never to be compared to mundane lust. It is purely transcendental, and the grave dealings which the queens displayed in natural feminine ways were also because the feelings were expressed out of transcendental ecstasy. It is already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually his relation with his wives as transcendental, pure, and unconditioned by the modes of material nature. I'll read that sentence again. I messed it up a little bit. It is already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually his relation with his wives was transcendental, pure, and unconditioned by the modes of material nature. Tamayam manyate loko yasangam api sanginam atmapam yenam manujam vyaprinvanam yato buddha. The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. Purport. The word abuddha is significant here. Due to ignorance only, the foolish mundane wranglers misunderstand the Supreme Lord and spread their foolish imaginations amongst innocent persons by propaganda. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is the original, primeval personality of Godhead, and when he was personally present before the eyes of everyone, he displayed full-fledged divine potency in every field of activities. As we have already explained in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is completely independent to act however he likes, but all his actions are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Only the foolish mundaners misunderstand him, unaware of his eternal form of knowledge and bliss, which is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. His different potencies work in a perfect plan of natural sequence. And doing everything by the agency of his different potencies, he remains eternally the supreme independent. When he descends on the material world by his causeless mercy to different living beings, he does so by his own potency. He is not subject to any condition of the material modes of nature, and he descends as he is originally. The mental speculators misunderstand him as the Supreme Person, and they consider his impersonal features as inexplicable Brahman to be all. Such a conception is also the product of conditioned life because they cannot go beyond their own personal capacity. Therefore, one who considers the Lord on the level of one's limited potency is only a common man. Such a man cannot be convinced that the personality of Godhead is unaffected unaffected by the modes of material nature. He cannot understand that the sun is always unaffected by infectious matter. The mental speculators compare everything from the standpoint of experimental knowledge of their own selves. Thus, when the Lord is found to act like an ordinary person on matrimonial bondage, they consider him to be like one of them, without considering that the Lord can at once marry 16,000 wives or more. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they accept one side of the picture while disbelieving the other. This means that due to ignorance, they always think of Lord Krishna as like themselves and make their own conclusions, which are absurd and unauthentic from the version of Srimad Bhagavatam. Man, my throat is really itchy. Haribol, Navneet, Krishna, welcome to you. Thanks for coming. We're in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 38. 1:11:38. Itari shasya prakritistopi tadgunai na yujyate sadatma staryata buddhistarashraya. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. Purport. In the Vedas and Vedic literatures, Shruti and Smriti, it is affirmed that in the divinity there is nothing material. He is transcendental, nirguna only. The supreme cognizant, Hari, or the personality of Godhead, is the supreme transcendental person. Hari! He's the supreme transcendental person situated beyond the range of material affection. These statements are also confirmed even by Acharya Shankar. One may argue that his relation with the goddesses of fortune may be transcendental, but what about his relation with the Yadu dynasty, being born in that family, or his killing the non-believers like Jarasandha and other Asuras directly in contact with the modes of material nature? The answer is that the divinity of the personality of Godhead is never in contact with the qualities of material nature in any circumstances. Actually, he is in contact with such qualities because he is the ultimate source of everything. Yet he is above the actions of such qualities. He is known, therefore, as Yogeshvara, or the master of mystic power, or in other words, the all-powerful. Even as learned devotees are not affected by the influence of the material modes. The great six Goswamis of Vrindavan all came from greatly rich and aristocratic families. But when they adopted the life of mendicants at Vrindavan, superficially they appeared to be in wretched conditions of life, but factually they were the richest of all in spiritual values. Such Maha Bhagavats, or first-grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor or insult, hunger or satisfaction, sleep or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings yet are unaffected. Unless these neutralities of life are there, one cannot be considered situated in transcendence. The divinity and his associates are on the same transcendental plane, and their glories are always sanctified by the action of Yoga Maya, or the internal potency of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord are always transcendental, even if they are sometimes found to have fallen in their behavior. The Lord emphatically declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged cent per cent in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord protects him always because of his rendering service unto him, and the following conditions are to be considered accidental and temporary. They will vanish in no time. Tamminare balamudasdainam chanuvratam rata apramana virabhartur ishwaram matayo yata. The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller. Report. Even the transcendental wives of Lord Sri Krishna did not know completely the unfathomable glories of the Lord. This ignorance is not mundane because there is some action of the internal potency of the Lord in the exchange of feelings between him and his eternal associates. The Lord exchanges transcendental relations in 5 ways: as proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover, and in each of these pastimes he plays fully by the potency of Yoga Maya, the internal potency. He plays exactly like an equal friend with the cowherd boys, or even with friends like Arjuna. He plays exactly like a son in the presence of Yashoda Mata. He plays exactly like a lover in the presence of the cowherd damsels, and he plays exactly like a husband in the presence of the queens of Dwarka. Such devotees of the Lord never think of the Lord as the supreme, but think of him exactly as a common friend, a pet son, or a lover or husband very much dear to heart and soul. That is the relation between the Lord and his transcendental devotees, who act as his associates in the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. When the Lord descends, he does so along with his entourage to display a complete picture of the transcendental world, where pure love and devotion for the Lord prevail without any mundane tinge of lording it over the creation of the Lord. Such devotees of the Lord are all liberated souls, perfect representations of the marginal or internal potency and complete negation of the influence of the external potency. The wives of Lord Krishna were made to forget the immeasurable glories of the Lord by the internal potency, so that there might not be any flaw of exchange. And they took it for granted that the Lord was a henpecked husband, always following them in lonely places. Hari Bol Bhava Sararuham Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hope you're well. Sorry, I decided to do the reading at my house because I got caught up in stuff over here as opposed to there. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we're just about to finish chapter 11 of Canto 1. In other words, even the personal associates of the Lord do not know him perfectly well. So what do the thesis writers or mental speculators know about the transcendental glories of the Lord? The mental speculators present different theses as to his becoming the causes of the creation, the ingredients of the creation, or the material and efficient cause of the creation, and so on. But all this is but partial knowledge about the Lord. Factually, they are as ignorant as the common man. The Lord can be known by the mercy of the Lord only, and by no other means. The Lord can be known by the mercy of the Lord only, and by no other means. But since the dealings of the Lord with his wives are based on pure transcendental love and affection, all on the transcendental plane without material contamination. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance into Dwarka.
Hari Bol.
Hey.
Hari, Hari,
Hari.
Hari, Hari, Hari.
Oh.
Jay.
Hari.
Any reflections, questions, comments, complaints, chastisements, criticisms, compliments? Just kidding. No.
I just wanted to say, Jay, I'm in a checkout line right now, so it was perfect for the ending. I don't know if you
So
get
the
Hari Bol.
cashier could hear all the hoodies and the clapping.
Yes,
Very good.
he will.
That there's like some cashier in a little grocery store in West Virginia that just got totally liberated hearing this. Holy name of the Lord. I'm not going to go on much longer. I was planning to stop at this point, but because Baba Saroham just come and everybody's so fired up, it makes me like not be able to stop right now. So maybe we'll at least read a couple verses in. Chapter 12, the birth of Emperor Parikshit. Text 1, Shanagovacha, Ashvatam no Pasrishtena, Ramashirshno Rutejasa, Uttaraya Hato Garba Ishena Jivata Punaha. The sage Shanaka said, the womb of Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit, was spoiled by the dreadful and invincible Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwatthama. But Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord. Purport. The sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharanya inquired from Sutta Goswami about the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, but in the course of the narration, other topics like the release of the Brahmastra by the son of Drona, his punishment by Arjuna, Queen Kunti Devi's prayers, the Pandava's visit to the place where Bhishma Dev was lying, his prayers, and thereafter the Lord's departure for Dwarka were discussed. His arrival at Dwarka and residing with the 16,000 queens and so on were narrated. The sages were absorbed in hearing such descriptions. But now they wanted to turn to the original topic, and thus the inquiry was made by Shanaka Rishi. So the subject of the release of the Brahmastra weapon by Ashwatthama is renewed. Tasya janma mahabudhe karmani cha mahatmana niranam cha yataivasit sapratyagatabanyata. How was the great Emperor Parikshit, who was a highly intelligent and great devotee, born in that womb? How did his death take place, and what did he achieve after his death? Purport. The king of Hastinapur, now Delhi, used to be the emperor of the world, at least till the time of the son of Emperor Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Lord in the womb of his mother, so he could certainly be saved from an untimely death due to the ill will of the son of a Brahmana. Because the age of Kali began to act just after the assumption of power by Maharaj Parikshit, the first sign of misgivings was exhibited in the cursing of such a greatly intelligent and devoted king as Maharaj Parikshit. The king is the protector of the helpless citizens and their welfare. Peace and prosperity depend on him. I'll read that sentence again. The king is the protector of the helpless citizens and their welfare, peace, and prosperity depend on him. Unfortunately, by the instigation of the fallen age of Kali, an unfortunate Brahmana's son was employed to condemn the innocent Maharaj Parikshit, and so the king had to prepare himself for death within 7 days. Maharaj Parikshit is especially famous as one who is protected by Vishnu, and when he was unduly cursed by a Brahmana's son, he could have invoked the mercy of the Lord to save him. But he did not want to because he was a pure devotee. A pure devotee never asked the Lord for any undue favor. Maharaj Parikshit knew that the curse of the Brahmana's son upon him was unjustified, as everyone else knew. But he did not want to counteract it because he knew also that the age of Kali had begun and that the first symptom of the age, namely degradation of the highly talented Brahmana community, had also begun. He did not want to interfere with the current of the time, but he prepared himself to meet death very cheerfully and very properly. Being fortunate, he got at least 7 days to prepare himself to meet death, and so he properly utilized the time in the association of Shukadeva Goswami, the great saint and devotee of the Lord. Text 3. Taridam shotumischamo garitum yarimanyase prahina shodadhananam yasya jnanam madaschukaha. We all respectfully want to hear about him, Maharaj Parikshit, to whom Shukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge. Please speak on this matter. Purport. Shukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge to Maharaj Parikshit during the remaining 7 days of his life, and Maharaj Parikshit heard him properly, just like an ardent student. The effect of such a bona fide hearing and chanting of Srimad Bhagavatam was equally shared by both the hearer and the chanter. Both of them were benefited. Out of the 9 different transcendental means of devotional service to the Lord prescribed in the Bhagavatam, either all of them, or some of them, or even one of them are equally beneficial if properly discharged. Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami were serious performers of the first 2 important items, namely the process of chanting and the process of hearing, and therefore both of them were successful in their laudable attempt. Transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting, and not otherwise. There is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in this Kali. There is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in this age of Kali. It is said that the master injects spiritual force into the disciple by an electrical current generated by the master, and the disciple begins to feel the shock. He becomes unconscious, and the master weeps for his exhausting his store of assets. Such bogus advertisements is going on in this age, and the poor common man is becoming the victim of such advertisement. We do not find such folk tales in the dealings of Shukadeva Goswami and his great disciple Maharaj Parikshit. The sage recited Srimad Bhagavatam in devotion, and the great king heard him properly. The king did not feel any shock of electrical current from the master, nor did he become unconscious while receiving knowledge from the master. One should not, therefore, become a victim of these unauthorized advertisements made by some bogus representative of Vedic knowledge. The sages of Naimisharanya were very respectful in hearing about Maharaj Parikshit because of his receiving knowledge from Shukadeva Goswami by means of ardent hearing. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performances or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. The process is simple, but only the sincere party can achieve the desired results.
I looked up the definition of ardent just
You
to
read my mind.
clarify. So when they say ardent hearing, they're referring to burning, fiery hearing, displaying or characterized by strong enthusiasm or devotion, fervent, and expressing or characterized by warmth of feeling, passionate. So
Oh,
like
nice.
vigorous hearing, like heartful.
Nice. That's very nice. Thank you for looking that up.
Yes.
Yeah. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performances or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. The process is simple, but only the sincere party can achieve the desired results. Maybe anybody present, if you can, want to share any of your own realization about hearing and its miraculous effects, because basically everyone here is a serious hearer, because this is a pretty serious hearing program. You know, I've been doing it for a while, and I've noticed that it kind of weeds out the serious ones from the not so serious ones. You know, and so I'm just wondering if anybody wants to share anything, your experience, if some reciprocation from hearing or something like that. Have you noticed any
Like,
miraculous effects?
Bhakti Adam, are you You're speaking. Are you gonna share something?
I'll just say I get from the association especially like something about PK. I don't know what. Kala probably knows about this. It's like from his association, you just get like real you get real advancement from his association and from listening, and like sometimes he'll just say one thing and it'll stick with you for like the next week. That's definitely his. That's like his. That's his oral reception. PK is very special.
I appreciate it. Just to be clear, I'm not fishing for compliments right now. Just so you know. But no, I appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Jay, Jay Krishna. Well, not fishing for compliments. I will tell you, Prabhuji, I consider you a pundit in my experience of your association, your dedication, your steadfastness for so many years. Um, and in situations where we can see it in many different devotees at times when they're genuinely reading and they're practicing their sadhana and seva and bhakti in a way that's definitely has an efficacy to the way that they can share shastra, and Krishna speaks through their heart and through them. And there are sometimes situations too, whether we're seeing somebody's devotional service with their deity worship, or again the way someone cooks prasad, and offers it. So the energies of the Shakti of Bhakti is put into everything we do in that way. And there are, different people, especially maybe someone in a more renounced order of life or senior practicing situation. And yeah, the Shakti can come in a certain way, like, again, just something that sticks with you or something that strikes you a certain way. And that's really, Krishna speaking directly in my opinion and experience, just comes right through, and so it's great to have great association. Again, please forgive me for this. I'm out of the store. It was nice to be in there listening, though.
Thank you for broadcasting Srimad Bhagavatam and Kroger, wherever you were. Krishna.
Yeah, I'll just share one quick thing. There was a moment, and the person in front of me in line had some issue with their payment situation, whether it was the phone payment or different things. Something happened, and so it was not going through. They were all frustrated and left. The two people were trying to help, so I was in line extra long, and it was sweet to have Bhagavatam going there. Ease the mood. So,
Jai.
I think Krishna. People.
Hare Krishna. Well, I'll try to share something in terms of miraculous effects of hearing. Well, I don't know. I think, like I experience, like this mood of, I think it was Daruka, who was like fanning the Lord and was like cursing his ecstasies because they're like getting in the way of his service of fanning the Lord. A lot of times, we may approach devotional service and kind of like a mood of enjoyment of like, yeah, I want to chant and do this and try to invite like ecstasy or something, or like we're like might be like trying to invoke ecstasy or something. But yeah, it's more so like whenever we approach in just a service mood, serving the Lord. But naturally that extends to all living entities and especially the devotees, and and chanting, for our own purification and for the upliftment of, our community or our association or wherever we're at, living entities. Um, a lot of times, you can develop a focus, and then naturally, you know, deep experiences just come. And in my experience, you could pass a lot of time just being focused and almost not realize how much time has passed. Like even just for us, we started the Zoom calls basically at the beginning of the year, and it's already been 3 months, basically over 3 months. And that's significant to have a regular hearing and chanting program, for an extended period of time is really the most powerful thing I've experienced. Right next to obviously associating with really advanced devotees, but yeah, it's just the more I try, and as time goes on, even if I'm so imperfect or whatever it may be, the more I try and time goes on, the more I'm encouraged to keep to do it more and more, because uh, it just makes hearing and chanting just makes everything better. And if you if you're like really hearing and chanting for especially long periods of time, and then you just okay, you have to stop because you have to do some responsibility or something. I experienced like once I if stop and then go do other stuff, then it like kind of hits me like, oh, like wow, and like things that we heard are like coming out in real world situations right in front of you, and the vibration just keeps going, even uh, you know with the smarnam as we are engaging in the world and stuff, and the whole thing is a miraculous experience, just to experience whatever level of like internal connection we have. Anyway, anybody else want to share anything? There's no flavor quite like Krishna consciousness. All right, Krishna.
I just appreciate the opportunity to associate with Prabhupada directly through his books. Prabhupada's such a potent personality, and I'm just like so grateful to be able to be in association with him anytime I want through the books, but also every day through these readings with the devotees association along with it. So,
Yeah, absolutely, Babaji. Baba Saroham, if you're there and able to, I'm wondering, what is that term? I think it was prophesized that there would be, was it the Senapati Bhakta? The great Bhakta that would spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village. I think it was like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I can't remember. Maybe I figured you would know.
Yeah, I think it's Chaitanya Mangala by who is it? I can't remember. Lochan Das Thakur he mentions, and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I think he further elaborates on it in his Navadvip Mahatmya.
Is the term Senapati?
Dhanapati Bhakta, yeah. Like the leader or the commander in chief, right? Of the
Yeah, I thought like
like
general, but maybe commander in
general.
chief.
Yeah. General. I think general is the right one. Yeah.
Like the great general of Lord Chaitanya's army.
Yeah.
That is Srila Prabhupada.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think of this every morning. Whenever I see a picture of Prabhupada on the altar, I'm like, this is the Lord Senapati Bhakta.
Wow.
I'm just like, Hell yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the nice
Yeah,
big
we
frame picture of Prabhupada, like on the Vyasa-san, I think, playing the gong, like happy.
we read Prabhupada's Transcendental, well, not Prabhupada, but Hari Shari Prabhu's Transcendental Diary every night. And it's just so nectar because it's just like every waking moment of his life recorded practically, not literally, but you know what I mean? It's like he wakes up and this is how he takes his bath and then just like every little detail is so nectarian because he's like fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness always. And just like those little details about what he's doing, how he handles a certain situation, or like we read one last night about. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I was shocked. Oh, he was talking to devotees who were preaching in Russia, and Harikesh Maharaj at the time he was like in charge, and they're like, Prabhupada, there's many devotees there that want to preach, and they're preaching, but the funds are so difficult, and the government is so heavy. It's so hard to maintain those devotees. And then Prabhupada said, "So, do what's necessary. This is our business. Eat meat if you have to." And Harikesh Swami says like, or Hari sorry was like, Harikesh Swami kind of like paused and then he like rephrased what he said because he was like shocked and he didn't realize what like he was like, was he serious? And then he says it again, and then Prabhupada says, "Yes, eat meat if it means to preach Krishna consciousness." And like they were just like completely blown away. He's like, "Whatever it takes, this is what we must do." Because like in Russia they don't have vegetables; all they have is bread, and it's like a new person reading that might like turn them away or something, but you just have to get the whole context of what he's saying, like the mood at which he's preaching. Like it's not, you know, it's far out. How?
He's really putting into perspective what's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Like we might be fanatic about like, oh, those meat eaters are going to hell, but Prabhupada's like, no, like everything is about getting people to do service to Krishna, and that's the ultimate goal. So anyway, pretty far out. Can't understand the activities of a pure devotee, right?
Right. Yeah, cannot be imitated.
No, we can't make those. How do you say executive decisions like that?
Right. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Prabhuji. I
Thank
would
you,
imagine
Prabhu.
that'd be a really nectar read.
Say that again.
I would imagine that'd be a really nectar read.
It is, yeah. Especially if, for me personally, reading about Prabhupada is what inspires me the most because we know he's a perfect human being, and his words carry more weight when we can see it in practice. How he, you know, acts in perfection. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Anyway, thanks for allowing me to share.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share anything, or
Okay.
otherwise I will probably conclude the meeting at this point.
Ananya, you want to share?
Hari Bol.
Hari, 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 Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Hari, 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 Hari.
Guys.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Panchakopa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anatakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Yay.
Jai.
So,
Hare Krishna.
alright. I'll see you. Be in New Vrindavan for the next several days, so whoever's there, I'll see you. Thank you so much for
Lord.
tuning in. Hare Krishna.
Hari.